Hi, everyone. I'm Sharon Goldstein, and I'm the Director of Day School Programs at Gateways. And I want to welcome you to our first webinar in our series, Our Daughters, Our Future, an educational series exploring girls' mental health and wellness. At Gateways, our mission is to provide high-quality special education services, expertise, and support to enable students with diverse learning needs to succeed in Jewish educational settings and participate meaningfully in Jewish life. Mental health is an area that can become a barrier to accessing education, and at Gateways, we've expanded our programming in this area. Our main goals are to raise awareness, decrease stigma, and provide tools to support our young people. We're offering educational trainings, such as this one, to parents and educators. We are partnering with the Brookline Center for Mental Health to bring mental health clinicians into the local Jewish day schools to provide individual therapy with students and offer wellness programming. And we've established a bridge program in 2 of the local day schools for students in need of additional mental health support. Gateways' annual event, Sweet Sounds, will be held on November 20th this year, and we are highlighting the work we are doing in mental health. If you're interested in attending, you can find out information about the event on our Gateways website, and we'll put the link in the chat a little bit later. We're so grateful to the Miriam Fund of Boston's Combined Jewish Philanthropies for sponsoring this important webinar series for the 3rd year. Tonight's topic, social media and self-esteem, has been one of the most requested topics on the feedback surveys. Our agenda tonight is to hear first from Sammy Faye, who will share her personal story, followed by our main presenter, Dr. Simone Alicia. Following the webinar, you'll receive resources and a survey, and we encourage you to complete the survey as we want to hear your feedback and know about topics that may be of interest to you. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Rachel Shine, who's going to introduce our speakers. Rachel?
Hi, everybody. As Sharon mentioned, my name is Dr. Rachel Shine, and I am thrilled to be with Gateways for the 3rd year coordinating this very important webinar series. I am a clinical psychologist located in central Massachusetts and do a lot of work consulting in the Jewish community. So happy to be here with all of you. And I am honored to be able to introduce our 2 presenters. First, we are going to hear from Sammy Faye. Sammy is a high school junior who attends Danvers High School in Danvers, Massachusetts, which is very close to Salem. Super cool this time of year. So Sammy's lucky about that. And she has worked with This Is My Brave and also the NAN Project, who inspired her to really get involved and speak openly about her experiences with mental health difficulties. And when Sammy is not dabbling in mental health advocacy, she can be found working as a summer camp counselor, which is near and dear to many of our hearts, and playing travel softball. Super cool. So we are first going to hear from Sammy, and then we will hear from Dr. Simone Alicia, who is a 5-star rated self-esteem coach, international speaker, and founder of the Self-Esteem Doctor Academy. Globally known as the Self-Esteem Doctor, Simone Alicia is a certified neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, certified metaphysical practitioner, honorary Doctor of Divinity, and a member of the Association for Integrative Psychology. She was formerly an elementary school teacher, and she gained the attention of high-profile families and the media with her unique talent for transforming the abstract concept of self-esteem into stunning videos, hands-on demos, and practical tools that are entertaining and results-driven. So we are thrilled to have you both with us today, and I am first going to turn it over to Sammy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sammy, as Rachel said. I'm a junior, so I'm still in high school. And today I'm going to be reading my essay / what I read at a conference I did at This Is My Brave in Providence, Rhode Island. That kind of explains my story and how I've dealt with mental health, just in general, and then go into specific topics about self-esteem. And yeah, I'm just going to read it so you can see what you can get from it. Hello, my name is Sammy Faye, and I'm a junior who battles with anxiety. When the NAM project came to my health class during sophomore year, I really connected with what they were saying, and I felt less lonely while dealing with my mental health challenges. That feeling of togetherness that I felt during that class made me realize that I wanted to share my story and help others going through similar experiences. Thank you so much for this opportunity and taking the time to listen to my story. Mental health, anxiety, depression, OCD. Many people just look past these challenges and don't take them seriously. Many people don't understand why someone can't just deal with the pain until they have experienced the constant battle. There are millions of people struggling with mental health every day. Here is my story. We start our story at little 10-year-old Sammy. In my household, my parents were supportive and always put me first, no matter what the situation was. So when they filed for a divorce, grew apart, and moved out of my house, my 2-year-old brother and I had to learn a very hard lesson at such a young age. We moved into my grandparents' house after the separation, which resulted in my father moving to his own place. He battles with anxiety and depression, similar to me, and needed that reassurance I felt I could give him at age 10. The only person that kept him positive was my uncle. Uncle Mark was my best friend, the person I could go to without judgment, and he loved me if I was his own. I enjoyed the time that we all spent together that first year until my uncle went missing in the beginning of 2017. 5 years later, and he has never returned, which was one of the hardest things I've had to encounter. Never receiving closure in someone that meant so much to me made it really hard to trust someone again and to open up. Along with that, my grandfather passed away around the same time, another challenge that I had to experience while I was trying to figure out what it was like to be a teen. Ever since then, I've had problems with my father because I felt like I had to be his mother. I took care of him by cleaning his house, bought him supplies with my own money, and ignored expressing my thoughts in fear of being judged. I matured at such a young age because I had to learn to stomach my own feelings, in fear if I didn't, he would end his life. I wish I could tell that younger self that I was worth it in those times that he made me feel horrible and like I could never be myself around him. I would cry when I got home because I would never be able to make him happy, no matter how hard I tried. From there, everything changed about me. I became a selfless and anxious young woman who didn't feel worthy enough. Every year from then was a struggle. I got straight A's as usual, was involved in every school event, and made Student of the Month every school year. I felt like I had to be perfect in everything I did in order to feel like people would like me or accept me as a person. I was on the highest honor roll, the best softball player on my team, and the nicest person in school. As much as I enjoyed the praise from my family, friends, parents, and teachers, nothing I did satisfied what I wanted. I was never proud of who I was, digging myself into a darker hole that I could get myself out of. It wasn't until the summer of 2020 that I reached the lowest place in my life. With COVID happening, I became a germaphobe. I was afraid not to get COVID myself, but to give it to someone else. Since I couldn't drive, I stayed home every day and slept until 11 in the morning. This made me feel depressed because I saw what was happening on social media, and I saw everyone on social media looking like they were having a great time, and I was home alone in fear of COVID-19. As time went on, I was recommended medicine by my doctor, but I would have to admit that I had a problem first, that there was something wrong with me, and I wasn't ready to acknowledge that I wasn't perfect. I was begging my mom for a therapist, crying every day because I felt and knew that I was not okay. Eventually, I found someone to talk to professionally and accepted the fact that I needed help. In the end, taking that first step of recognizing the issues has saved me so much and allowed me to fight for my well-being. For the last year, I've had horrible days and negative thoughts that have mentally challenged me. I get nervous that people won't like me because I'm an anxious person. I overthink every single situation and can't leave the house unbothered. I have to check my room every single night or hit something 4 times in fear that if I don't, something bad will happen. Over time, I named the voice inside my head Sabrina. She does suck. I'm just going to say it there. I have never been in a relationship because I feel like I'm not good enough or will scare someone away if they learn who I really am. I have fought with my mom because I've tried so hard to make her get it. I wanted her to see what I dealt with, when in reality she will never understand because she hasn't experienced anxiety at a constant rate. I couldn't tell the voice inside my head to leave me alone, not having the strength and courage to take back my life. And overall, there are many tears and awful nights that taunted me in ways that would make me fear the loss of my progress and back to where I was in 2020. I won't sugarcoat it. Dealing with anxiety and OCD is not a walk in the park. It's just as important as any illness, depriving someone of living their best life. Ever since then, I have still dealt with mental health, but I have found ways to fight back. Sure, I still feel the need to be perfect. I always have to have everyone like me. I stomach everything and hide behind a fake face. But I have tools that I can use to see how important I am in this world. It is very vital to find the right people who are accepting and love you for you. I wouldn't be in this position without my brother, my mom, and my mom's boyfriend. Although my mom may not understand, she tries her best to be there and support in times where I need to vent or cry. Randy, my mom's boyfriend, came into my life when I was at my lowest and gave me the strength, love, support, and a person I could talk to whenever, wherever. That said, I feel like someone may need to hear this. I remember seeing something online about someone having to check or touch things a certain amount of times, and I thought to myself, people do that? I assumed that I was the only one, but I learned that there are other things that I felt like I did that was just me, and so many other people do that. That aha moment was the first time where I didn't feel lonely in my mental health. I also used therapy, my friends, music, Disney World, softball, pictures, walking, Harry Potter, shopping, and living that 4-year-old mindset to help me see what I have to offer, and therefore gave me the strength to start the process of taking back control of my life. I still deal with anxiety, OCD, and depression every day. Some days I look in the mirror and point out everything I wish I could change. Other days I feel like no one will ever love me for who I am. I still walk on that diamond and feel not good enough to play the game. I struggle with the inner voice that controls my thinking. Many times I don't see my worth and my accomplishments. And overall, I haven't figured out how to control my anxiety yet. However, these days are going to happen because mental health doesn't go away. It is always with you. However, learning how to deal with it, finding the good within the bad, looking for the bright side, and knowing what is best for you is how to overcome the negative thoughts. I knew I had to gain a relationship with God, so I try my best to connect with Him as much as I can. I know I had to distance myself in order to learn my self-worth. I learned over the past year that loving yourself and relying on those who support you is an important step in the healing process. The moral of the story: live life. You only live once. Find the things that make you happy and ignore others that bring you down. Get out of your comfort zone. Surround yourself with genuinely good people. It's easier said than done, trust me. But as an overthinking, anxious perfectionist, I have firsthand experience. But as someone that has empathy, my advice would be for you, for anyone, young and old, to take that one step forward. Take that day off. Get that hair dyed like you've always wanted. Pick a job or college that makes you happy. Date that person that makes you smile. As I live by, everything happens for a reason. Live your life the way you want, because those bad days and years are what make you you. Accept them, wear them, but don't let that voice control you. After all, you were given the life you were given because you're strong enough to live it. My name is Sammy. I am strong, worthy, loved, and I have a purpose in this world. This is me. This is my life. This is my brave. Yeah.
Thank you, Sammy. That was incredible. And I can't tell you how thankful we are to you for sharing your story. So we are going to turn it over to Dr. Simone, and Sammy is going to be with us throughout the presentation. And I invite questions for Dr. Simone and for Sammy as we kind of move through the presentation, and we will have specific time for Q&A at the end, but feel free to put your questions in the chat and also, or in the Q&A, either way. Thank you. All right, turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And thank you, Sammy. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many of you are sitting home right now, just like clapping to yourselves, but thank you, Sammy. That was so marvelous. And I'm going to be piggybacking off of some of what you said for the talk today.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am the self-esteem doctor, Simone Alicia, and I am so excited for this talk. I know that we have much to cover. As Rachel said, of course, we're open up to questions, and Rachel will kind of jump in and let me know when there is something that I can answer for you. So I want to make sure that you leave feeling like you've gotten your questions answered or as close to it as possible, because that's why we're here. That's why we're here. So I, again, am the Self-Esteem doctor, and I opened an academy of the same name. The entire goal is to make sure that we have resources for these topics, these issues, these self-esteem and mental wellness topics that we are all dealing with and having to work through. I absolutely loved when Sammy just kind of started listing the different things that she does to help her to be more positive and to focus on the good things. She says she does shopping and some softball and therapy and looking at the bright side of things. And so much of the tone of today's talk is going to really be about those options, having those options. So today I'm talking about social media and self-esteem, tips for parents and teachers. You'll notice the presentation will appear behind me because I want to be in the presentation, talking to you and feeling like I'm right there with you having this conversation. So let's get into it. A little bit about my background. I taught elementary school. I am a coach. I am certified in neurolinguistic programming, which is a lot of words, I know. We can call it NLP for short. And NLP is really about helping us to reprogram our perspectives. So if I have a belief system that says I'm not good enough, I can help reprogram that by using some of the facilities that we have in the mind, right? Some of the tools and abilities that we have in the mind to focus, to kind of reconstruct some of those connections in the mind so we can start to feel more positively about ourselves. So today we're going to take a look at how social media kind of programs us, if you will, and what we can do about it. All right. I would like to give you data so we kind of know what we're working with, what some of the specialists out there are saying. I want to talk to you about self-esteem today, how I define it and how that's worked for me as a coach and as a speaker. I'm going to give you some analogies and talk to you about the power of analogies in kind of explaining the social media world. Share some stories with you along the way, give you some tips. And I want these tips to be something that we can use for all ages. And of course, if you have more specific questions, we'll keep adding those tips. We'll do some resources so you know where to continue to get help and guidance, or where you can get more resources. And of course, my favorite part, the Q&A, which does not have to be left till the end. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. All right, so let's jump into some of the data. And this is I'm like a meteorologist, so I have to figure out which side to move here. All right. So social comparison is linked to lower self-esteem and higher social anxiety. I wanted to touch on that because I feel like the foundation of so much of the social media world problem is that we're really enhancing and heightening this comparison. Here's what you're doing versus what I'm doing. Here's what you're doing versus what I'm doing. And then we start to doubt ourselves. Studies also show that when we're thinking about ourselves, we're usually really tough on ourselves, right? Really critical, really difficult. And sometimes when we're looking at others, we're like, oh, but they're so wonderful and I'm not, So when we have this exposure to social media, which we know is just increasing, there's like a new social media site every 20 minutes, we're still trying to keep up. It does impact our self-esteem, and it impacts the anxiety that we feel like we have because we're like, am I good enough? As Sammy was saying in her opening talk, am I good enough? And should I be doing that? Should I be doing this? And then we get into likes, right? So there's all these different elements to consider. So I want you to understand that that's part of what the data is saying, is that the social comparison, which we can see very much online, is related to self-esteem and is related even to social anxiety. Another bit of data I wanted to share with you is that this one says the negative impact is not always caused by cyberbullying or a negative comment. I'm going to keep leaning on Sammy here a little bit because I just think what she brought to the table was so important. But if you noticed, it wasn't necessarily a lot of people saying bad things to her, not that she shared today anyway, but it can be about you not getting the expected feedback that you want. It could be just, again, comparing. It can be feeling a sense of pressure that you've got to perform or post the content or post the right content so that you can get some more friends or get some more likes. And that leads to a lot of pressure and stress, and also increases the sense of anxiety and can definitely affect your self-esteem, because I have to be better or do better or, kind of be perfect in this self-esteem space to have all these likes and this validation. So this is another area where we see, social media is impacting self-esteem and the way we're thinking about ourselves. The last one I want to share for now is that recent studies have found that Facebook, in this case, it was Facebook, we know there are a lot, but in Facebook, the users are excuse me, let me get my thing together here, right? So they did a study here and say frequent Facebook users believe that other users are happier and more successful. There we go, I got it out. So again, the comparison, it just looks like you're doing great and I'm not, right? And so they said that it really also can affect your self-evaluation, the way you're looking at yourself, and just really be negative for your overall well-being. So the studies are out there, the data is out there that's saying that, social media is impacting us. So the big magical question is, what do we do about it, right? So I want to start by talking to you about what self-esteem is as far as I'm concerned, and the way that I like to teach it and embrace it in my work. So self-esteem is the way I'm thinking and feeling about myself. I even made a little jingle out of it. Should I sing it? Okay, I'll sing it. All right. So I say, what's self-esteem, right? And then the kids or the audience would say, the way I think and feel about myself, the way I think and feel about myself. Okay, that's enough for now. But that is how I define self-esteem. It's the way we're thinking and feeling about ourselves. And I like that definition because it gives us a bit of power. I can actually work on what I'm thinking and the way I'm thinking. Not always easy, as Sammy said, but it is worth doing. So I can work on that. So I love that bit of an open door that says, you know what, it's not just, you're born with this horrible self-esteem or you're born with perfect self-esteem. It is something you can nurture and you can build. All right. So with that said, I want to start with you. I want to start with the parents who are on and the teachers who are on. I know we've probably got foster parents on. We've got a lot. So I welcome all of you. And I want to start with you, with me, with us as the adults. When we're talking about building self-esteem for our kids, when we're talking about guiding them through the use of social media, we're talking about facing this world that is changing so quickly, this world of technology, trying to keep them safe, trying to guide them, but also giving them the independence and letting them play around in this space. It's like, what do I do? How do I navigate this? And I think it starts with us. And here's what I mean. We've got to have the confidence to guide and to lead our kids in this space. Are you with me? Like, we need to have the confidence, because for me to say, no, you can't have social media yet, or yes, you can, but you can't be on all day, or let me see your phone, or whatever it is that we need to do to kind of watch and help our kids through this process, we have to have the confidence to do that. But sometimes, let's admit it, we get nervous. What if I'm too strict? What if I'm too relaxed, too lax? What if I'm not doing the right thing? What if I don't know what's going on? What if, it's all these what ifs. What if I'm too hard on him or her or them, that and they resent me, because I'm trying to protect them, and we get so scared. And then we just kind of sit there, deer in the headlights. Our kids take off on this world of social media, and we don't even know where they are anymore. So I want to start with you and a story. I promised you stories. You're going to get stories. So a little analogy, I guess, or a story or a thought I've always shared with my own kids to try to help them get some perspective when I'm helping them with something that they don't understand. This is what I say. This is my little image here to kind of explain this idea. I say to my children, imagine that there's a very young child, I don't know, 3 years old, and playing with his or her favorite ball. They're playing with their favorite ball in the world, and they're kicking it around and just having a great time. And all of a sudden, the ball rolls out into the street. Now, as the adult, right, with the extra years of experience, with the knowledge, whatever, the education I have of what can happen, my first instinct is to look left, look right. I'm looking at the road, like, are there cars coming, right? I'm already like, and I'm on my way to the child, like all in one fell swoop. I'm like, no, and I'm making my way to the kid, and I'm looking at the road. Now, if I can see that there's like a giant truck on the road, I can see it. I have the vantage point. I have the education. I have the knowledge. I have the wisdom. I have the know-how. I have the instinct. And I look up and I see there is danger coming for my child. What do? I know somebody answered out there. You're like, you're running to that kid and you're like, I'm going to yank you so you don't go in the street. Do I want to hurt my child? No. Do I know that maybe that might hurt them if I grab them like that? I might grab their arm too hard, or I might pull the shirt, or they might fall and, hit their tuchus on the floor. I don't want them to do that. But more importantly, I don't want that outcome. The truck, the child, the street, I don't want that outcome. So I'm willing, and I trust my instincts, and I trust the rightness of what I'm doing so much that I'm going to run over there and do what I got to do to protect that child, even if there's a temporary discomfort. I hope that makes sense to you guys, because what I'm illustrating here is I want us to have that same clarity and that same confidence when it comes to social media. I want us to say, well, I can see a bigger picture here than my child can see, even at 16, 17, 18, 19, maybe not 19, but as they're getting older and you're kind of like, I'm hands off, I can't really control them. But we still can have a little bit of input because we do have the benefit of a little bit more wisdom and experience. So this analogy really is to open our eyes and say, hey, if I can have the confidence and the certainty that I would have in this situation, if I can have that certainty about social media, then I'd probably be able to get in there and grab my child out of danger, out of harm's way, and make sure that they can navigate this space a little bit better. And I'm not talking about don't use social media, because that's not going to be the answer. This social media is where we're going right now. So I'm going to give you better tools than just to say, okay, don't use it. That's not where we're going. Okay. But we are looking at a little bit more of a fearless parenting approach. This link here that I'm sharing and showing with you, or this resource, they don't really talk about fearless parenting. That was kind of a phrase I just wanted to use here in this time, but they talk about boundaries, and they talk about the power of having those boundaries in parenting and saying, well, this is what's allowed and this is what's not, even when you feel like your kid's going to be like, I hate you, right? There's a power in having boundaries. It's not a power for you as the parent per se, but a power in helping our kids to develop in a really healthy, strong way. And when we talk about mental health and mental wellness, there's such a big variety of things going on, whether we have like diagnosable things that are going on from a mental health space, or we're just having a mental wellness thing where we need to nurture certain qualities within us and strengthen our perspectives on things. Either way, having parenting boundaries can help to guide and nurture our kids in that big plethora of needs that they may have. One of the things I wanted to talk
Simone,
to, yes.
we actually have a question that is very much related to this. So
Oh, perfect.
somebody just asked, how can we teach our kids to know what content and behavior is important for them and what they should be reporting to us? Like when they can't control what their child is doing online, like when she's at a friend's house, all of those different things. How do you teach that? How do you help with that?
So what I have found, and I kind of use the phrase, we want to get to them first, right? They're going to see so many things and we can't control, especially they're at a friend's house, like you said, or, I've had clients who've actually had accounts on their friends' phones because they're not allowed to have a phone or accounts, and they just make an account on their friend's phone. So what I think it's kind of get to them first with the education, so that by the time they see what they see, there's already been something you've already instilled in them before that. So what they're seeing is not the first exposure, and it doesn't define how they're processing that. Because I kind of feel like in some of this stuff with our kids, that first impression kind of sticks. So I'm like, I don't want the kid next to you in school to be the first one to tell you about that, or this random person online to be the first person to tell you about this. I kind of want to be the first, so I can come to you in a more academic way, in a more intelligent way, and clearly share things with you, so that when you do see a version of that online that I can't control, I'm hoping that you've got some schema, you've got somewhere in there you could place that and be like, hey, mom or dad or, teacher told me about this, and that's not really looking right, and maybe I need to stay away from this. But having these open conversations that can sometimes be difficult, I think is the best way to preempt that. And if your kids are on the older side and you're like, well, that ship has sailed, they've already seen stuff, I think that what we need to do in terms of retroactively is really start nurturing self-esteem in terms of, okay, what control do you have over you? You've seen this, you've heard that, you've been exposed to this, but how can we nurture you anyway? How can we still empower you anyway? So that's kind of how I would approach that question. Does that feel full?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as a follow-up, somebody just asked, how do we deal with FOMO, or fear of missing out, and social media? So when trying to control what they're seeing and doing online, they don't want their teen missing out, but they need to make sure they're being safe. So with what they're doing on social media. So kind of similarly, how do you manage that fear of missing out?
Okay, so this is going to go into kind of all the things. So we're going to have a little repetition, but I think it's great. That's going to help us to kind of get it to sink in a bit. When it comes to FOMO, number one, I think that us as parents and as the adults kind of have to manage it within ourselves first and be the role model of that, because it's so funny that we are able to kind of deal with stuff and we just deal, and then when we watch our kids go through it, all of a sudden we're like, no, don't do that, like we're the master of it when we see our kids. So I think one step is for us to be able to manage it ourselves and talk to our kids through those occasions. So if your bestie posts online as an adult that she's out here and you're like, oh my gosh, she didn't even tell me, maybe talk about that with your kids. Be a little bit more transparent, like, hey, look, I just saw Auntie so-and-so, and she's hanging out, and I did feel bad. I felt terrible about it. But then I realized I have other friends, I have other things to do. I've got, and everybody has the right to hang out with multiple people and multiple friends. We can also use analogies here. There was an analogy that I used a while back at Beth Torah here in Florida. And the analogy, the teacher just loved it so much. She keeps telling the story. And I said, we all may enjoy ice cream and there's tons of flavors of ice cream, but when people go to the ice cream shop, they may not take the same flavor every single time. So if I go in and I'm just like, okay, today is, vanilla and today is strawberry, it doesn't mean that, pistachio is the worst or mint is horrible. It just means that today that's the one that I chose. And she somehow loved this example because it kind of said to us that it doesn't mean that you are bad or not good or not worthy if you weren't invited to something. It just means that in that instance, you just weren't invited, but it doesn't have to reflect you and who you are fundamentally as a person and your worth and your value in being invited. So I think one of the best ways to do that is to have the communication with your kids about it, model that yourself if that ever comes up for yourself. And then lastly, make sure that you create little scenarios where you can say, hey, if this were to happen, what could you do? Right? Again, piggybacking from the initial thing that I said, the original thing is that we want more options. If this is my friend group and they went out and I'm not there and I feel bad, it's like, well, I have no options. I only can just feel bad. That's all I can do. Feel bad, be mad at them and yell at them when I see them again, or, be really hurt by it. But we can have more options. And some of those options are to do other activities, to open up the friend groups as much as possible, to definitely write out your feelings and to feel those feelings, but then to help coach yourself through it. Think of the times you did get invited. Think of the times you did go out, and also take initiative to be a leader and say, I can invite people to go out too. Like I can't get left out if I'm making the plans, right? So you can also take a little bit more of initiative and do that. So try to open up the options that we have, because they're going to see it sometimes. They're going to see that someone's hung out without them. And I think it's healthy over time to help them to say, I don't have to be invited to every single thing every single time. And that's okay. That's not a reflection on me. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Keep the questions coming, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. So I just want to kind of tie that in with, we always have these different perspectives of what's going on, and perspectives can shift so quickly. So one perspective where you're just like, oh my gosh, I was left out. I'm being, excluded from everything. That perspective can quickly shift with the right analogy or the right thought, or just looking at something a slightly different way. And I can give you an example of how glaring this can be, because growing up, my mom was pretty strict, like, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, that's not age appropriate. Like she just kind of like, they called her the iron fist. And I was like, oh, this is not fair, and I had a family member who, oh my goodness, she was like the dream of freedom. She could just go anywhere, anytime. That was my perspective. It's like 10 o'clock at night and she's like 11 and she's in the movies. And I'm like, oh, you're so lucky. Why can't I do that, Mom? So I described her as lucky. I was like, this girl had it made, man. And then fast forward, literally in college, there was like a couple semesters we were in the same university, and she literally confided in me. She goes, you are so lucky. I've always been jealous of you. I'm like, first of all, what? Like, we're pretty close. So I didn't expect the jealous word to come out at me, but she was like, no, I mean, seriously, like you literally had the best upbringing. Like, you're so lucky. And I'm like, what are you talking about? When I tell you, like, huh? And she goes, yeah, your mom had all those rules. At least you knew she loved you. almost just cried again. Like every time I think about it, it's just like, what? So look at that perspective. Like I'm thinking she's lucky because she has everything in the world. And she's thinking I'm lucky because I've got these boundaries and like, it's proof that, people love and care for me. And it's just magical how our perspectives can change with just the tiniest word or the thought or the right thing said to you at the right time. So I want us to keep that in mind because social media offers us that same opportunity where we can see things in a certain perspective. And us as the parents can help, and the teachers and any adult who's in a position of influence or mentorship for our kids can really help to shift those perspectives. Again, it's like that programming going on in your mind. If you can offer ideas and suggestions that can shift that programming, you can get different outcomes out of how your kids are feeling. So the same thing goes for fearless teaching, setting some boundaries and understanding that as a parent, you are a teacher. I know that might be scary because some of us who are so busy and so overwhelmed, you're like, oh, please don't tell me I have another job. Don't tell me I'm also the teacher. I can't do this. I understand it's a lot and we do have a lot, but we've been their teacher from the beginning, walking, talking, eating, using the restroom, dressing yourselves. Like we've been a teacher from the beginning and we just got to hang in there through these years and incorporating this idea of technology. And I'm going to keep giving you ways to do that. So as we go through some strategies here, I'm going to be detailing them for you in a little while here. And I just want to state very clearly that there's not going to necessarily be one single answer that applies to everyone. We are different. We have different circumstances. We have different scenarios, and different things going on in our lives. So one answer can be absolutely magical for one person and be like, what, to another. For example, if you say to me, when should you let your child join social media? I'm going to say, well, it kind of depends on like, what's their behavior like? Do they have behavior issues already? What's their maturity like? Are they impulsive? Are they insecure? Are they even interested in having a phone, which you need to have this? Well, for the most part, you need to have your social media. What level are they at in their readiness? That's probably something I'd ask you. And if you ask me, how do I give them social media? Like, how do I make sure this is going to be okay? I'd say to you, well, it depends on you and your family and your lifestyle. Are you the type to sit down and do a contract together and sign it and uphold it? Or would you be like, yeah, we'll do the contract, but I won't uphold it? Will you create rules that you'll stick to, agreements? Will you like test them on it? Give them practice, make them do test runs with the social media and see how they do, and then decide there. There's so many different things to consider. So I want, as you're listening, to appreciate that we are so different. And I want you to know that I respect that each of the households of everyone who's logged on tonight, you guys have different scenarios that you're dealing with. And there's not going to necessarily be a one size fits all, but we can look at some general concepts to guide the process so that it can help you through this journey of social media, because it's ever changing and it's a lot to deal with. So I want to simplify it as much as possible and give you as many tools as possible. And as a matter of fact, I know when you were signing up, some of you expressed what you wanted to get out of this conversation. And I know a lot of it was like general knowledge, information, knowledge is power. I know somebody said that, but I kept seeing this repeated: tips, tools, strategies, and practical advice. Like, give it to me. And I'm like, oh, I'm here for it. So that is my goal. And that is what I want to give to you today. And the foundation of all of that is going to be that I want us to increase our options. Having tips, having strategies means that we have more options. And I think once we have that, we feel empowered, because if that doesn't work, I'll try that. If that doesn't work, I'll try that. And if that happens to me, I can do this, or I can do this. And I think that's a really good thing for us as the parents and educators, as well as our students and children and teens, to be able to have those options. So parents and teachers, as we get into the strategies, I want you to understand the platforms. No, I do not mean you need to log into each and every one of them, sign up an account in each and every one of them, and be an expert in each and every one of them. And I tell you this from experience because I tried it. I was like, I'm going to go on Snapchat and I'm going to learn it and I'm going to be an expert. Like, how does this thing work? What is this? First of all, why is the logo the logo? I mean, it was a mess. I'm just like, I don't even know what to press right now. So I'm like, let me get a different perspective on this. Let me go and look a little bit more at how does the platform work? Let me just get some data, some information. How does it work? And I'm not talking about spending 3 hours studying anything. We are all busy, but in a few moments, you're just kind of scrolling through your phone, like, so what's up with Snapchat? And it's like, oh, messages disappear and you can be on red and they want to do streaks. And I'm like, bam, bam. Okay, I got a working idea of it. And the point of having the understanding of it is to kind of understand why it's pulling your kids. And with that, I want us to understand our kids a little bit more. Now, I know in the parenting platform, it's kind of like, I got to parent, I got to give the rules, I got to guide them for the future, I got to do this. But we also have to support and nurture, and that's part of it. And as a teacher, the same is true, right? So if we can see the big picture of we want to keep them safe, but if we can do so with compassion and understand our kids and why they would be called to the platforms, why they would be called to wanting to have it and not be left out, not be the only one without the platform, not see their friends partying without them. We understand those things, then we can really connect with them and show them that, listen, I hear where you're coming from and I feel you. When we do that, we are in a better position to guide and to help them. And I want us to just keep that at the forefront of our minds, okay? You are a bigger role model than you may think you are. So your role in practicing what you preach and living by the power of your own example is huge. I have 2 kids of my own. I actually homeschool my kids, so we're together a lot. Right. And a lot of things will come up about phones and about this. And I'm like, listen, it's all about role modeling as much as possible. Do I claim to be perfect? No. Do I claim to be a robot? No. I've got all the waves of emotions that you all do. Every single one of them. I just have access to the tools, and I make sure I try my best as humanly possible to use those tools every single day and demonstrate the use of those tools. So I have my feed, and my feed is curated to like whatever I'd like, but every now and then something sneaks in there. So when my daughter comes over my shoulder and is looking, and I'm like, what are you looking at? Like, you can't be in here. Then I'm like, man, that doesn't sound very good. I didn't like how that felt as a role model. Like, I mean, it's still my phone. It doesn't mean she has a right to just be in my phone, but I'm like, what does that kind of feel like if I'm saying you can't look at my phone? So I'm like, let me clean this up. Anything that's going to pop up something strange probably should not be there for me either. So I just cleaned up my feed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we are the role models. We can't say to our kids, don't be on social media all day and you got the phone in your hand, like, yeah, honey, you got to log off, sweetie, that's not good for you, right? You're a role model. So you've got to, manage your reactions. And it's not just for them. It's not you disappearing and no longer being who you are and have to be this role model. No, you're doing it also for your mental health and your mental wellness and for your well-being, right? It's still impacting all of us. We're all kind of affected and impacted by the data we saw in the beginning. It still has an effect on us as adults as well. So we want to be the example, which will encourage our kids to also walk by that as well. All right. Now with the kids and teens, self-esteem, comparison, and the kids, all right? Our kids, how should I feel about me? Like, that's kind of a question that the kids like, how should I feel about me? I don't know. How much time have we spent really nurturing how our kids should feel about themselves? I'll tell you this, a lot of times we get nervous about the idea of self-esteem, right? We get scared because we start to parallel self-esteem with arrogance, with cockiness, with bragging, and we start to get nervous that this is not so good to love yourself too much. Like, don't do that. Like, just a little bit, but not too much, right? And it gets a little confusing, and then we don't want the kids to be this, and then we don't want to. So let me clear that up for you. I want to make a very clear, distinct line between building up your self-esteem and crossing over into the line of arrogance or being, really braggy, as the kids would say, boastful, right? When you are saying things to yourself, and we're going to get into this a little later too, when you're saying things to yourself, it's an inside job. I need to pass this test. And I know that if I'm being positive, then my brain is a little more relaxed. I can help reduce anxiety. Literally every thought that I'm having, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. If you want to look him up, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Every single thought that I'm having has a chemical signature. That means the thought matches the chemicals that will flow. So if I'm like on the more of the positive side, there are chemicals flowing through my body to like help me, a little more happy chemicals. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a little more empowered and encouraged. That's the potential of maintaining more positive thoughts. You actually help to flow more positive chemicals through your body, which then helps you to feel a little bit better, a little bit more motivated, a little more optimistic, a little less anxious. So that's the benefit of maintaining positive thoughts. I know that when we teach our kids or we learn about it, it's like, be positive. It's like, why? What? You just want me to look like a rainbow and unicorns all day? Why do you want me to look? Because it actually does help you. It helps to clear your mind. It helps, and you can change the way you're breathing, and also helps to impact your body. So this is stuff that we want our kids to know. And how can I feel good about me? How you can start that process of thinking a little bit more positively about you. And when you do that just for you, I want to pass this test. I'm smart. I can do this. I studied. I know how to study. I can focus. I can try. I can do this. I have help from the teacher. I have the book. I got this. I'm smart enough. I'm good enough. I can do it. I can do it. When you're doing that for you, that's self-esteem. When you're doing that to try to compare with someone else or compete with someone else or prove to someone else, if in any way, shape, or form, someone else is involved in what you're calling your self-esteem journey, then we've left the self-esteem realm and we've gone somewhere else. If you're walking into class now like, well, I studied more than you guys and I'm about to get an A on this test, we've crossed the self-esteem. We're not there. That's not self-esteem. Once I've got to take it outside of me and I have somebody's got to give me a check mark or a like or a plus sign or a high five for it, then I am now in a different zone. But for me to do self-esteem building, it's a private, personal, inside job. So that's how you can feel confident about saying to your kids, hey, you should love yourself. And when you're doing that, you don't have to say it to someone else to love you. You're saying it really to yourself right there in your mind. We'll get more into that's called self-talk, and we'll get more into that too. All right. For the old, excuse me, I want to show you this first. So if your kids are on the younger side and they're kind of like, who am I? Which of course teens can also ask that question as well. Like, how do I feel about me? Right. I want to talk to you if you've got younger kids who haven't really been on social media yet, or you're just in the beginning stages. I don't want your kids to approach social media with a blank canvas of self. I don't want them to not know about social media, and I don't want them to not know about themselves. I want them to have something painted on this canvas of self. I want them to have an idea of them. They should have affirmations. We heard Sammy end her talk with some wonderful affirmations. They should have some affirmations painted on that canvas. They should have a sense of I am able and I can paste it on that canvas. They should have some options. You know what? If I see something mean, I can do this. If I see something mean, I can do that. I can delete things. I can unfollow people. I can take breaks from social media. I can have an understanding of social media. I want them to have something on the canvas of self before they enter that world of social media, because if they have this canvas fully painted when they arrive to social media, then everything social media tries to throw at them can't really stick as much, right? They already have a sense of self. Let me give you another example. I tell this one to my kids also. If your self-esteem is just a little, like, you know, it fills up the little cap, a little water bottle cap, right? This is your self-esteem, the volume of your self-esteem, so to speak. If somebody came with mean things, let's say it's represented by 3 drops of red food coloring, and you drop 1, 2, 3. If this is where your self-esteem started and they came with 3 drops of meanness and put red in here, this is going to turn red. This little drop of water in here is going to be like, red. You've been affected. You've been impacted by that. You're just going to have a hard time trying to overcome this. But if you start off, ready for this? If you start off and your self-esteem is like a pool, like a swimming pool, right? Like 8-foot, whatever swimming pool. And they come by with 3 drops of meanness, of red, food coloring. Right there at the site of impact, sure, it'll get a little red, it'll hit the water, you'll see it. You'll see that something happened. We don't have to deny it. You can see it. You can be upset. Hey, why'd you drop that in my pool water? But it's just going to dissipate because the vastness, the hugeness of your certainty of self just washes that away. That would be my dream for people who are approaching social media, to have already been armed with their own self-esteem. So when that mean thing comes across my path, I'm kind of like, yeah, it bothered me. I'm human and that was super annoying, but like, I got a swimming pool. So like, right? That's the goal. And that's why I start to think that social media, that self-esteem coaching, self-esteem education, self-esteem resources, knowing what our therapists are doing, what our psychiatrists and psychologists, our psychologists are doing, what our counselors are doing, what every single person in the mental health and mental wellness space is doing to help give tools to our kids, I think it's phenomenal, because we need to go in differently than we did before. And those of us who are kind of looking at the past and we're like, well, when I was a kid, like, yeah, you're right. Me too, when I was a kid, but that's not what it is now. What it is now is more red drops are coming of meanness, if you will. If you take it back to the analogy, more red drops are everywhere. Social media is filled with red drops. So we now, maybe not like before, but now we've got to make sure our kids are like swimming pools of positivity and self-love. And I'm going to make sure you get some specific step-by-step things that we can do for that as well. Right. And for the older kids, it's not too late. I have older families that'll be like, well, what about me? My kid's been on social media for like 5 years now. That's okay. That's okay. We talked about this a little bit with the earlier questions we got. You can still have talks with your kids. I know you literally just you rolled your eyes. I know you did. You're like, have you talked to a teenager, Simone? Have you talked to them? I have. And listen, story time again. I have had kids bear hugged and brought into the room, let go, and the door closed. And I'm sitting there like, and they're sitting there like, and I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I need security. Like, this doesn't seem safe because they are not happy. And I am not very confident at the moment, self-esteem doctor, terrified. And I realized, you know what, if I can get on their level and make some relevant references, if I can listen and demonstrate appreciation. Now notice I said appreciation, not understanding. If a child comes to me and says, hey, listen, I'm the dumbest person in the world and you will never change that. My grades say that, my parents say that, the teachers say that, like, that's it, end of message. What we want to say as nurturers is, oh my gosh, no, that's not true. But guess what we've just done? I just said, I didn't hear you. I don't understand what you're talking about. So now if I didn't understand what they said, they're like, well, I don't want to hear your advice because you didn't even understand what I said. How are you going to advise me? So no, I'm not saying you're going to be like, oh yes, I understand. No, we're not going to say that. But we have to find this place in the middle where we say, oh my gosh, it probably feels really terrible. And yeah, it does feel terrible. But aren't you pretty good at soccer? Yeah. Well, aren't there rules in soccer? Yeah. So if you understand the rules of soccer, are you the dumbest person in the world? I mean, I'm just asking. I'm not. And then they're like, well, I guess not like that dumbest. And then they start scaling back and I'm like, got him, right? Because we have to get them to kind of see it themselves. So I'm not telling you guys have to get into this massive coaching capacity to be able to talk to your kids, but we do want to be able to reach them a little bit. So older kids still can get this coaching and it still can come from parents. Helpful if we have outside resources for sure. And I'll give you some more tips on that too. We're going to break down the strategies one by one by one. And again, we want to maintain our boundaries with these conversations as well, because that actually does help to empower both you as the teacher, as the parent, and also empowers the child as well. All right. So it's time for us to teach on purpose. As I jump into the strategies, I want you to think of this. This, with the head slightly cut off, forgive me, is a person driving a car. Now, I want you to think of this analogy and I want you to take it very, very seriously. Our kids, when they're little, when that car seat can turn around and they can be like looking forward, they technically see us drive. They see that we started, we turn the wheel, we do the thing, press the thing, and they watch us turn, they watch us do the thing. But at no point have we said, you've watched me do it long enough now, child. Go operate the motor vehicle without any training. We don't do that. We do not do that. We realize we have to teach them how to do this on purpose. Our schools often offer driver's ed to teach this on purpose. You need to know how to do this on purpose, right? We need to get into the nitty gritty of what it means to drive. And then a kid might say, well, it's so easy. I've seen you, all you do is you just turn the thing and then you go like this and then you press one of the pedals on the bottom. Like, how hard could it be? Okay, well, it's easy to start it. It's not easy to do all the other things when other people are involved on the road and the lights, and we have to navigate these details and the lines and the turn lanes and the speed limits. It's a lot more intricate than it may look initially to a child. And I venture to say that's very similar with social media. It's like, how hard can it be? You pick up the phone, you click install, then it goes and installs, and then you're like, name, email. Now I have an account. How hard can it be? Starting it, like the car, it's very easy. It's all the details that happen when you have to interact with other people. That's when we need the training. So yes, I know this is like, are you saying we need a social media class? Yes, I am, 100%. I'm saying that they need to know what to expect when they get there. They need to have a perspective about social media that actually empowers them. They need to know how to reply to certain things, or if they should reply to certain comments or certain messages, or when someone slides in the DM. See, I know what's up, right? Okay. And they need to know about, what about putting things in writing, the importance of kindness, the falsity of social media, what we're actually projecting and showing here. They need to know how to use it, who to follow. And that's not something you just hand the phone over and they're just like, magically figure that out. That's something we should be showing and training and teaching and coaching. And again, you might be saying to me, well, my child is older, so what are you trying to tell me? Like, it's too late. No, absolutely not telling you it's too late. I had a 19-year-old client who was having this type of course, we're all having this kind of issue, right? So this 19-year-old young girl was dealing with this, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's so depressing. Like, but like, I can't not be on it, but I have to be. And I'm like, wait a second. Why is it depressing? And she's like, because what I'm seeing. And I'm like, okay, who followed and friended these people? She's like, well, I did. And I'm like, so who can unfollow and unfriend these people? She's like, well, I could. And I go, if you were to do that, which I'm not telling you to do, but if you were to do that, what would change? She's like, well, I probably like looking at social media better. And I'm like, well, then you have a choice. That's up to you. And she was like, well, I'm going to do it. Right. And so it was like a week later, and we had another session, and she was like, oh my gosh, I cleaned up my feed. Now I'm following fashion, and like all these things that she was passionate about weren't even popping up on her feed. It was just like drama. And now the flood of like things that she loves is showing up on her feed. And it's like, it sounds so simple. She's a very bright girl. It's not about intelligence or not intelligence. It's just about lack of training. If you're not really told, or it's not really highlighted to you that you can curate your feed and how you can do it and why you would do it, and make it make sense, then you just don't know. So she didn't know at age 19, and she cleaned it up, and things were vastly different for her after that in terms of that part of her life. It was just different. So these are the types of things that we can do when we provide the actual training before we put our kids behind the wheel of social media. Okay, I tried. I thought it was cute. Okay, moving on. All right, so social media is neither bad nor good, but it is about how we use it. So time for some strategies, y'all. Are you ready? Let's do it. All right, so strategy number one, it's kind of a combo strategy because I feel like we need one to successfully do the other. So this is mushed together. I need you to trust yourself as the adult. Again, back to that first analogy with the truck and the car and the road. I need you to trust yourself that, you know what, whatever information that I'm gathering, I can use this and I can incorporate this into analogies and help my kids. Why do I keep harping on analogies? All right, so our brain loves pictures, and kids will they will retain imagery and visualization a lot better than a lecture that's just words. This is dangerous, it's unsafe, I don't want you to do this, you have to stop doing this. And the kids are like, right? But if you're like, hey, why don't you picture social media like the filters are like art? You know, art, you just grab your pen, your crayon, your marker, you just draw whatever. You draw a skinny line, a bigger line, a purple line, a yellow line on top, line on bottom. You can just draw whatever you want. It doesn't really become real just because you drew it. It's just a drawing. So art filters, kind of like art, they can draw lashes on you. They can, right? I mean, just at a click of a finger, they can just do whatever they want, right? I mean, it just do whatever. It doesn't even, it's just art, right? And some art makes you look silly and some make you look gorgeous, but it's just art. So we can kind of do I'm like, what's that one? There it is, right? We can kind of encourage our kids by giving them that picture. It's art. And just because you draw something doesn't mean it becomes real, right? You draw a Ninja Turtle, it doesn't just like hop out of the page and come into your house and become, it's just a drawing. You can draw it with a sword or I don't know, other weapon names, a thing star. You guys know what I'm saying, right? All right, so we can give them analogies to help them see it differently, because if they're seeing it differently, they're going to look at it through a different lens. They're going to take it in very differently. Right. And so that's what we want for them. If I say to them, here's another example, very specific example. Now I'm getting into more specifics. OK, you can say social media is a highlight reel. And then we may have heard that before. You may not have heard that before, but I'm always about, let's give some examples. You're talking to a teenager, you're talking about it to a kid. You're like, all right, highlight reel. Here's a scenario. Let's role play, or let's just do a scenario. I make a pizza. For the first time, I'm testing it out. I burned this pizza to a crisp. I mean, it is charcoal. We can't even tell what it was, right? Then I try again, and it is perfect. I mean, it's got gooey commercial cheese on it. Like, ooh, wow, it is so Instagrammable. It is so perfect. And which one would you post? Ask the kid, which one would you post? They're going to be like, duh, the one that came out perfectly. And I go, most people would. That's what most people post. Most people don't show you when the pizza burned, but they show you when it came out awesome. Many of us have burnt many a pizza before posting the perfect one. And then you keep those scenarios going, and you keep saying, okay, so now you tried a new hairstyle. You braided your hair, and the first one looked like, I don't know, like, right? And then you braid it again and it was like, oh my gosh, like a magazine hair. Which one do you think you'd post? The one, why are you asking me this? Like mom or teacher, miss this, why are you, duh. Well, I'm asking you because this is how social media works and I need you to see it in real life from a first person perspective so you can understand when you scroll now, you will forever be like, that's the one that worked. That's the one that worked. Wonder how many times they burned that one. That's the one that works. And it's a new perspective when you look. And then you look at the lashes. That's a nice work of art. Draw the lashes on like a Ninja Turtle. Nice job, right? And so I get to look at it and take some of the sting out of it. And if we can do that training, we can do a lot for the mind and for the perspective of how we're looking at it. Here are a few more. You're in control. When I say you're in control, this opens up the door to many, many analogies. I like to think of something like this. I said to myself once, like, if following people on social media was like following people through the mall, who would I follow? Here are my friends, a couple family members, and they're going to really cute stores and like it's just a really fun time. Everyone's laughing and giggling on the way there. Or like, it's just a fun experience to follow them around the mall. Or there's someone, forgive me, I'm going to use a poop analogy, but there's someone who tracked in a little bit of poop on the shoes, doesn't smell so nice, and they're walking through the mall and they're not even going in the stores. They're like walking up to the closed, barred up windows that like there's no store in there, like walking up and staring at the board and they've got poop on the shoes and it doesn't smell so good. And am I following them through the mall? Or am I following my friends and family through the mall? And it's a great experience. What would people say to me? What would kids say? What would a teen say? Why are you asking me this? Like, duh. Of course, I'm not going to follow someone who's like walking through poop and stinks. Like, that's awful. And I'd be like, well, why do you follow people on social media who make you feel like poop? And then they're like, huh, don't answer. I made my point, right? So these type of things stick with us and then it makes us look at social media a little bit differently. Okay, social media is like food for your feelings. All right, so there's some way I want to feel. Whatever I go and collect in social media is going to help me to feel that feeling. So if I'm going through and it's for us adults too, hello. If I'm watching the news and I'm like, oh my gosh, and this happened and this horrible thing. Now I'm not saying don't be informed. We need to be informed, we need to know what's going on, okay? But we also can do that in moderation and not have to study and really like feed on the things that make us feel worse when we come off of social media. That's just not good for our mental wellness. And as we learned from listening to Sammy's story, there are millions of people dealing with real mental health issues, from anxiety and OCD and perfectionism, all these different things that are going on. And we need to understand that if that's happening in our lives or the lives of people who are close to us, that obviously you need to have the help that will really help you in a very deep and fundamental way, but you don't need to make it worse by scrolling through social media in a way that actually just continues to depress and bring you down and repress and oppress you and your potential for joy and happiness. All right. Now, if you have any questions for that, I know you guys are sending your questions in kind of freely, so I'm just going to keep on moving so we can be on time, but keep your questions coming if you have any about that first strategy. So that strategy was to trust yourself as the adult, which will allow you to be confident in incorporating analogies for social media so they can see the picture differently at any age. All right. Strategy 2, educate yourself and educate your child. And of course, you're going to have to model. You're not just going to talk, educate. You got to role model, you got to show, you got to demonstrate. We said this before. And the goal of this is to prepare them and to help guide their view of social media. How do I want my child to see this? Do I want my child to see this as this is the way you determine your self-worth? This is how you learn who you are and what you deserve by going on social media? Nope. Wrong answer. I don't want this to be for you. I want you to see social media a little bit differently. So we can demonstrate a healthy feed, which is all the stuff that's on your account. You can like make sure that it's something healthy, something positive, something that your kids could look at if it's on your feed. And that doesn't mean you can't have like your adult, humor and whatever's for yourself. You're still a person and I want you to enjoy things on your own terms. Just make sure that you are demonstrating at some regard that these things are positive. One of the things you'll do is the way that you're talking about yourself or to yourself about what you've seen. So if you see some gorgeous supermodel on social media and then you're like, oh, look at her, she's so beautiful and I'm so fill in the blank. Your kids are listening. Teachers, if you're talking with other teachers about things that are like really intense on social media, the students may be listening. So just keep that in mind, that how you react to social media as a mature person is going to filter down to our kids and how they react. And now this is really becoming the fiber of their beings because they're so young in some cases. And we don't want that to be the foundation of their self-worth and their personal value. So make sure that you maintain a healthy feed, maintain a healthy way you're talking out loud to yourself, responding to things you're seeing on social media, and how you're managing being left out. If you see your girlfriends or your sister, your brother, your guy friends hanging out and you weren't invited, manage how you deal with that. Don't be afraid to bring it to your kid. But look, this happened. What do you think? And they might give you the answer. Oh, mom, don't worry about it. They just know you didn't like sushi. That's why they didn't invite you. Your kid might coach you through it. And then you'll say, that's pretty good. I hope you remember that anytime if that ever happens to you, because you just gave me such great advice. I know you can give advice to yourself if this ever happens to you, right? Like things like that, right? And any kind of unkindness, if you're going to war, like, oh, she said that on my feed. Wait, watch this. That's why I can't stand you. Like, don't do that. They're listening, they're watching, and it's gonna hit them, and they're gonna want to do that and emulate that. So remember that you are a role model. And of course, balance your time on social media. And feel free to explain to them why, right? And why they could do that, because we don't want them to determine that their life is built here on this platform. Their life is outside of here. And the platform is just a place where they can express highlights and parts of their lives if they want to, right? Another thing you can do, remember, this is another strategy you can use as parents here and teachers. You can actually utilize the resources that are already out there. Certain YouTube videos, certain influencers that your kids will relate to and do like, YouTubers who are of their age, or animated YouTubes that's a little bit like in a cartoon format, people and celebrities or whatever who are speaking out about the truth of social media, videos that demonstrate here's with the filter, here's without, here's behind the scenes, here's what they posted, here's happened first, here's what happened last, right? And we're seeing that pop up more and more, but you need to make sure your kids are able to see that. So in that teaching capacity, in that demonstrating capacity, educate yourself and educate your kids by saying, hey, you're already on this platform, but keep this in mind. Did you know this? Did you see that? Did you ever notice this? And send them posts that they can look at that you feel that could help them through this journey. And if you've never been on social media, do this before they even get on there, so they can have that strong foundation for themselves. All right. So let's just review really quick. I love to review. So you're going to see me going back here. So 1, trust yourself as the adult and incorporate analogies to help your kids really understand social media in a different way. 2, we said this already, educate yourself and your child, and of course, be a role model to prepare them and to guide the way they're going to look at social media. All right. And now number 3, fill their canvas with love before social media fills them with something else. Ooh, so I get it. As parents, sometimes we're showering our kids. You're beautiful, you're amazing, you're kind, you're wonderful, right? And sometimes we hear families say, it worked so well. My daughter just knows her strength. My son knows he's strong. And then we hear other situations where it's like, I filled her with kindness. I filled them with love. I filled them, but it's not working. They don't believe me, So again, because there's no one size fits all. But what is a really powerful strategy is to allow your child to say the words themselves. Try to create scenarios where your children get to say the words, not just hear you say it, but somehow encourage them to say it. Younger kids, it might be easier. You can play flashcard games. I've played appreciation games and affirmation games where you have to throw a ball back and forth saying, I am strong, I am healthy, I am happy, I'm confident, I'm kind to others, I'm friendly, right? So older kids, you're like, yeah, good luck getting my kid to throw the ball back and forth with me, screaming out affirmation. Right? But what you can do with an older person, because teenagers they're looking for this, they want it. They just sometimes don't trust us to give them the answers. But once we can establish that we can help, you'll be surprised at how they can open up, even in a parenting scenario, only because I've actually worked with parent and child in one coaching session and watched it kind of happen, like watch it transpire right in front of me. So for the older kids, you can still encourage this by, again, showing them some proof, if you will, from things online. If you go on TikTok, there's like affirmations for days on TikTok of people like affirming themselves and saying, you need to love yourself. So that kind of gives them okay, this is probably not just my mom talking. This is like, I should probably do this. Again, using social media for the good that it can bring as well, right? For the proof. So do those affirmations, affirm yourself, have the kids actually say it. Just try to have them say it. They can journal it, they can draw it, make them, if you allow it, give them like a space on the wall where they can graffiti like an affirmation in their room or something, or a wallpaper on a plain wallpaper on the door. They can just write like positive stuff, something they can express in a really personal way where they're saying positive things about themselves. So, and just to go back and not make any assumptions, let me define these things again. So self-talk is what we're always doing. We're always in our head thinking something. Oh, I forgot to buy rice at the supermarket. That's self-talk. Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. How can I forget this? That was self-talk. Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm low-key genius. How did I think of that? That's self-talk. What we want to do is to nurture that self-talk so it's a little bit more positive, not delusional, not lying, not pretending, not faking. I know sometimes we say positive thinking and people are like, oh, I have to just pretend. No. Look for those positive things about yourself. Dig for them, look for them, because they're actually going to help you. So self-talk, affirmations, which is positive things you say about yourself. A lot of times they can start with I am and really own it and bring that into the beingness of you, right? And of course, having compassion for yourself. Compassion for yourself in this case means I'm like, you know what? I kind of goofed up on that thing, but it's okay. Everyone makes mistakes and I'm just going to do it better next time. That's compassion or forgiveness for yourself. Okay. Another way to use strategy 3 here is to find the positive aspects. Positive aspects means something happens in your life and maybe it didn't work out, but I'm trying to dig through for the positive aspect. It's a rainy day on my beach birthday party, and it starts to rain. I'm upset. You're allowed to be. I'm annoyed. You're allowed to be. But are you going to sink into like a really dark place for like days and days and days? Or can we just dig through, well, what's the positive aspect? Well, luckily I've got a projector in my house and I have enough space to invite my friends to come in and we can just watch a movie here and make it like a different kind of party, whatever, something like that. Got it? Gratitude. I actually made a game called the appreciation game. And our little like slogan, our little tagline for it is, there's no time to complain. We're playing the appreciation game. Okay. So when you are in gratitude, it's a little bit more difficult to start comparing in a negative way, because if like, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. And then you look at somebody who has something and you're in the space of gratitude, you're almost happy for them that they have it rather than being in a comparing negative space. So that's a very positive thing that you can also incorporate in terms of trying to fill that canvas and let your kids really feel good about themselves. Encourage them to find the positive aspects, encourage them to do gratitude and make them acknowledge their wins. We spend this much time on our wins and this much time on our losses, and it's not good. So let's say, for example, something awesome happens and I come to chat with you and I'm like, honey, oh my goodness, this great thing happened. And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, done with that. But now if a horrible thing happens or something dramatic, I'm like, oh my gosh, cannot believe what happened. What happened? Oh my goodness. Right? 45 minutes later, we're still digging into what happened, right? Because we're so emotionally charged by it. But if we're in there, we're just like milking those negative moments. What about acknowledging the win and milking that for a little bit? Milk those moments, because I'm going to have them lodged in here that was me. That win, it was me. I'm milking it inside. Again, not showing off, not dangling my medal for everyone to see, but for me. All right. Another thing you can do here for strategy 3 is mental imagery. I love mental imagery. I have an entire class that talks about mental imagery, and it's all about when you get into your mind here and you just start to see the outcomes that you want, not because you're doing some kind of psychic creating thing, but because when you see it in your mind, you give yourself the option that it's possible. If you see in your mind, hey, you know what? I can feel really good about who I am, and I can stand up tall and I can walk up to a new person and say, hey, how are you? And if they're a little bit mean or off-putting, I can still feel good about me and go to the friends that I do know who are welcoming, and I can feel secure about my family who loves me. But if you can go in your mind and mentally run through some of these scenarios and see them as positive, and even if you see it not working out, what would you do in that scenario? But how would it feel if I succeeded there? Sometimes we're looking for these wins, we're looking for these successes, we're looking to feel so good about ourselves, but we've never even imagined it. That's like a GPS in here. This is where I'm telling my brain and my body and my mind, this is where I want to go. But if I've never even put it in the GPS, I'm not going anywhere. So being able to picture and imagine some of the good things you want just occasionally is great for kind of training the brain to say, hey, this is an option. Huh. maybe I can do it. More ideas start to come. You start to generate ideas, and then bam, you're possibly in a better position to do those things. Vision boards are also great ideas because it puts all of your desires out there on paper, or you can do vision boards of what makes me happy, what makes me feel confident, what's good about me, what do I want for the future, what am I good at, what are my skills, what are my talents. You can make a vision board about anything. What am I grateful for? And just be able to have something in there for you to see. All right. And then journaling. Journaling is just a way for you to stay focused. If I say to you, stay positive, or if I say a list of things you are thankful for, we know how it goes, right? You start off, you're like, I'm so thankful for life, so thankful for my health. Oh, I have to buy water. Oh, I'm so thankful for my family. Oh, I literally forgot to buy the steak for dinner, right? And all of a sudden you're just like off here and off there because you're thinking, so other thoughts are popping in. But when you're writing, usually we can stay a little bit more focused. We don't usually just accidentally write, I have to go to the supermarket, right? We're usually a little more focused. So that's the benefit, in my opinion, of journaling. All right. You guys know I have to do my recap, right? Because it's a lot. So here we go. Strategy 1, trust yourself as the adult and incorporate analogies that help our kids understand and frame how they're going to see social media. Number 2, educate yourself, educate your child, and be a role model so you can prepare them and guide the way they're going to be viewing social media. Also, strategy 3, fill their canvas with love before social media fills them with something else. Give them the self-love and self-esteem building tools. And we talked about affirmations, self-talk, all of those positive things, mental imagery, journaling. These are lots of options for our kids. So you say, my kid doesn't like journaling. I'm like, okay, cool. Let them do mental imagery. Like, oh, well, they don't want to do that. Okay, well, let them do affirmations. We'll just keep on checking for strategies that work. All right. And the last one I'm going to share with you guys for today is about increasing those options. I cannot express how important this is. I think this is a good visual for me. If I imagine I'm walking into a wall and I have no option, no option, no option, no option, that's a place where you just kind of give up. You just kind of are like, oh, I'm done. There's no other option. But when I can go like this and open that pathway, and now it's not just one choice, but several, all of a sudden I'm like, okay, all right, I have something I can do to try to help myself. All right. So, oh yes, questions. Anytime you guys have questions, let us know. All right, so here's the last one. So options. One option, again, this is the detail portion now. So one option your kids have is to curate their feed their own way, right? So if they want to learn about cooking, if they love fashion, fashion again gets tricky because of body image and things like that. But we can, again, help them and guide them. What does that look like? There are people who promote body positivity. What does that look like? Who are those influencers and people we can follow? So really start to decide, if I'm going to let my child on social media, or now that my child is already on social media, or now that my child is having trouble with social media, what tips can I give them? Create your own feed your way. They want control. They sometimes want to feel empowered, and some things are out of their hands, but not this. This is in their hands. They can do this, right? This is something they can do. For example, imagine that another analogy, another image we can give them. I want you to imagine that your kids somebody's walking on the beach and you're going to collect shells. And you want the beautiful shells, you want unique shells, maybe you want purple shells, whatever your shells are that you like, that's what you want to collect for your shell collection. But all of a sudden, someone is telling you, you've got to pick up all the shells. The broken ones, the one with like little body part of little animals, insects in there, the ones that are like, whatever, they're just rotted, they've got mold, mildew, moss, algae, I don't know, and for some reason, like, no, pick all of them up. And your kid would be like, you can't make me pick that up. I'm only going to pick up the ones I like. It's my collection. Why would I take something in my collection that I don't like? Aha! Why would you follow someone on social media that doesn't make you feel good? Would you pick something up on social media that doesn't match your beautiful collection of happiness that you're looking for? So we have to keep giving it to them in ways that are like, oh, duh, yeah, why would I do that, right? Don't follow accounts you don't like if you wouldn't pick up shells you don't like, right? So that's where I'm really interested in making them have a new perspective. Another thing we can do to kind of let them take control and have more options when it comes to social media, again, decide how you want to feel and follow those accounts that help you feel that way. I want to feel happy. Okay, well then I got to look at accounts that make me feel happy. I want to feel powerful. Okay, let me look at accounts that make me feel powerful. I want to feel body positivity. I want to feel like a good chef. I want to feel like encouraged to run. There are accounts that can help you. Whatever you want to find is whatever you have to look for. All right, I'm going to have a quick activity I'm going to show you up here. All right. So I'm going to slide out of the frame, but you'll still be able to hear my voice. Okay. So look into this picture. I'm sliding a little more here. All right. Look into this picture. And I want you to identify every single thing that's yellow. You don't have to write it or say it out loud, but literally look for everything. And I mean, get tiny, like a picture in the frame, in the back, something in the ceiling, something in the bulb, something inside of a sculpture. Look for everything you can see that's yellow. I'll give you a couple seconds. Just try to remember it in your mind. Really make all the yellow jump out to you. Tiniest bits you can find. All right, you got it? All right. So now you know what I'm going to ask you. Tell me everything you see that was black. Oh, you weren't ready for that. Why not? Because you weren't looking for that. So I cannot ask you to identify something for me that you weren't even looking for. You weren't consciously searching for that. So right now, what's standing out in your head is, ask me what the things that were yellow. Ask me. I remember like 10 things. Like, yeah, I got yellow in here. Come on. When's she going to ask that? I'm not going to ask that, because that's the point, is when we say we want to feel happy, right? That's like looking for the yellow. I want to feel, or rather like, I want to feel happy. I want to find the yellow, but then you're looking for black, or you want to feel black and you're looking for yellow. You want to feel good, but you're looking at bad. You want to feel strong, but you're looking at things that make you feel weak. It doesn't matter. I mean, excuse me, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't match up. And it does matter what you are looking for in terms of what you are looking to find. So that is the key. I want to feel good. I want to feel strong. I want to feel kind. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel valuable. And I don't want someone else to have to tell it to me, because then I have to work on their timeline. I have to tell myself that. I've got to fill myself with that. And then once I'm filled with that and I turn to social media, I only want to entertain things that support that. When I look at that, I continue to feel good. And it's not because it's making me feel good. It's just can't impact the pool of self-esteem I've already filled for myself. Okay, I have 3 more slides to go, and then I'm going to be on my question portion. So hopefully you guys can keep some questions coming in. So almost done here. When you want more likes, give them to yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but I literally created this class called 10 million likes for me. And guess who those likes come from? Me, right? No, well, for you. So 10 million likes for me is about you liking yourself, about you finding all of these beautiful millions of ways to love and like yourself and give yourself that validation. So when you log on social media, it is an instinct to kind of look and like, oh, well, how many people saw it or how many people liked it? And I think that's kind of part of the territory. Like I posted something, you kind of want to see who saw it. I get that. But it's a difference. There is a big difference between who posted that and who saw it versus I need them to like it, because if they like it, then I'm awesome. That's a different energy. So we don't want that to be surrounded. So let our kids have the option of also knowing they can like themselves, and that's okay. And that's necessary. Value our physical friends more than the number of friends. That gets tough because, the number of friends is broadcast to everyone in the world. But if we can start to understand, well, what is a friend? Is a friend someone who just clicks the button on your Instagram or your Snap? Like, is that a friend? Or is a friend someone who's going to hang out with you and like listen to you and help you through problems, help you study? Like, let's start to value the physical friends more. And we can actually do that in an activity with our kids in class and be like, well, what do you love about your physical friends? What can you do with your friends in person that you can't do online? What is fun about getting together? Things like that. So we can keep nurturing that perspective so they have another option. I could just really, really love on my friends that are like right here in the neighborhood or right across the street or in my class or whatever. I don't have to value a number. I have to value people. And the last one here for the 4th strategy is fill your days with other hobbies and activities that make you feel accomplished. I know some of our kids have gotten into like a very big video game phase, especially some of those teenagers. And it's like all they want to do is sit and play games. And when they're off the games and they're on social media, just let's try to navigate that as best as we can in terms of if you're doing other things and feeling valued in other ways, then that can start to help circumvent some of the needs for this validation online, because I feel really great in my sport. I feel really great in my dance. I feel really great when I make the dresses in my bedroom, at my desk in my bedroom. I feel really great when I bake cookies or whatever it is. Like, just give them things and allow them to explore themselves outside of social media and what they like. And you can tie that together. Hey, what do you like? Let's look it up on social media and then let's bake it, or let's design it. Or, if you like makeup, let's try to do that makeup, whatever it is. So we can really start to cultivate and bring this together in a way that helps our kids to see social media differently, helps us to empower ourselves along the way and feel really good. So your guys are going to get these two resources. This kind of summarizes what we talked about here today. And then also this gives you links and QR codes to some free resources. Some are in my academy, some are not in my academy, YouTube videos, articles. If you go to this resource, it's actually a self-esteem and social media resource in my library. It's totally free. It's completely online, and it has a lot of what we've talked about and more resources for you to access and just to check out. So I'm here to make sure that you have tons of support. It's the end of my part of the talk, so I can take some questions from you guys, but I consider it more of the beginning. I know I'm a mushy. I know that was fine. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'm going to turn to the side here so you guys can see any of those that you guys may want to keep up with me or stay in touch with me. And other than that, I'm ready for some questions.
All right. So the first one is, I love all of these strategies, but do you have thoughts and advice on the amount of time spent on social media and limiting it?
So there is data out there on that. I actually have somewhere else in my academy. We talked about being on technology in general. So I've seen the data where it includes watching TV and Netflix, like every single thing under technology umbrella. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head right now for social media, but what I would say is in general, I think people are saying things like 3 to 5 hours of just being on tech is a lot. So if we could bring that down a bit, I think that it becomes very helpful. Doing it in stages can be very helpful. Watching your own child, again, your unique situation. If you're on vacation, might be different hours than in the middle of the school year. If there's a night where there's tests coming up, that might be different than a night when there's not. So I think being a little bit flexible, but seeing how it impacts your child. If your child is able to put it down for dinner and have a good dinner with you, put it down for study time, I think you're good. If it's like a fight to get them to study because they need to be on social media, if it's a fight to get them to eat with you, a fight to get them to get ready without the phone, then I think there might need to be some more structure in place. And that depends on your family also. If you say, give me your phone, does that work in your family? Do you have to just turn off the Wi-Fi? Is that what works in your family? Like I've seen families try these different strategies, and some families will tell you that was a win, and another family will say that doesn't really work for us. So I would say, where do you see your child falling short or not participating in life because of social media? And then start to decide what's an appropriate time for us and our family. What does that look like? As a personal example, my kids are not on any social media yet. They're 8 and 11, and I don't allow social media for them yet, but they are able to watch tech, and I'm pretty strict. I saw somebody wrote a question in and we're like, I'm pretty strict. And I'm like, I'm pretty strict with that too. So our kids can't touch tech until like after 3, because we're homeschoolers. So I'm like, you're not going to sit here all day. So like after 3, you can use some tech, and depending on what we're doing, then it should be shutting it down at 7, maybe earlier. And then I started to brainwash them a little bit, like, tech is what we do when there's nothing else to do. Tech is not life. Tech is not what we woke up to do. Like, I woke up to watch the show. No. You watch the show when we're not doing something, like on downtime. That's when you get it. So you can incorporate those strategies depending on your personal family and your dynamics and how it's how your family makeup is.
Great, thank you. If a teen isn't sharing what they're doing on social media, should we be spying on them?
So I think there's a power in the choice of words. So I might use the word monitor. I might still try, rather than spying. I might still attempt the route of conversation, which we know is just not always a pretty scenario. But I definitely do think that there is a need to monitor depending on what we're seeing with our kids. So I've had children who are really pretty good performers, doing pretty well, not a lot of issues going on. So they have a little bit more freedom with the social media, but the parent will still keep an eye on them. There's still like check-ins, like, I have to check your phone. I've seen kids who are struggling mightily with life and with things. And so the parents are on top of it. Like, this is mine. Now, that doesn't mean parents are catching everything. The kids just get wittier the more we search, right? But I definitely think that you can monitor a little bit. And I want to know kind of like, what do you want to know? So if we're just checking on them because we're terrified and we're just afraid, then we might get some backlash. But if we're seeing something like evidence-based in what they're doing, like, okay, look, your behavior is really horrible. Like, I want to see what you're looking online. I want to see who's influencing you, what's going on. I think that can work out a little bit better. So you could monitor depending on their age, and there are lots of monitoring tools that help us to see what our kids are watching online. You can always use the tools and purchase those apps that you can kind of follow what's going on. So there are a lot of options there. And I think that it depends on your case. You could very well be monitoring, but there is a point where they're going to come across stuff that we just can't see. You just use a friend's phone or all these other loopholes they found. So even more than monitoring is making sure that we're inputting that good sense of self in them. So whatever they come across is not strong enough, hopefully, to break them down in the way that social media can.
I do have something I was wondering if I could say something.
Sure, of course, please.
Side of like, I know I'm not a professional, but I am a teenager.
You're a professional teenager. Yes. I want to hear.
I was listening to what you're saying, and like, my mom trusts me, so I don't think she goes and spies, but like, I've seen friends where their parents like have secret accounts just to see what they're posting because they don't have access. And from that perspective, as a teenager, like, it makes it seem like we've lost your trust when we haven't done anything, and like, you don't trust us enough. And I say, like, a way to approach it is, instead of like going behind their back, some teenagers, like, if my mom said to me, hey, what are you doing on social media? I'd say, here, take my phone. She wouldn't have known. Like, if you just did something behind my back, it's more like, not disrespectful, but like, it goes against my privacy and like my trust. And if you were to just ask me, and some teenagers don't, and that's like when you take different approaches, but most teenagers respect their parents. And if their parent asks them something, they're most likely going to tell you. And if not, then, like I said, there's different approaches. But I just want to give it on the side of a teenagers and like how we see it when it comes to monitoring, spying.
They are different.
They are.
Yeah.
But the other, you bring up a great point, because one of the next questions is, should the kids know we're monitoring? And so Sam, you literally answered that question. And
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't be sorry. We're in this together, and we need this.
Yeah.
We need this.
So what my mom says with social media, her rules are, if I have any social media, I need to follow her so she can see it. Like Snapchat, she needs to be a friend of mine. She needs to be in all my private stories so she can see. And I know that she needs that. It's not like I lost her trust. She just needs to know that's her parent.
Right.
I follow her face, but like, she knows, as long as she'll give me like full range of what I can do, as long as she has access to it. Like, I would like to know if my mom is monitoring me, but I also know why she is doing it. So.
Oh, I hope you guys heard that, like, all the way. That's so good. And I think it also kind of taps into what we were saying before. Like, there's so many different dynamics of families that one answer, in Sammy's case, it's like, oh yeah, hand the phone over. As a coach, seeing kids for whom that's not the case, they're like, I'm not giving her my phone. It's go to wartime. I understand, there might be different approaches, but I definitely agree with you. If there is trust in the relationship, then let's continue to maintain and nurture that trust and show a teenager like Sammy, like, okay, look, I want to know, and this is the rules, and then we're on the same page. So I think that's so powerful and a great perspective. Thank you. And you better jump in on the next question too.
Of course.
Now I need you to.
The next question is, what about being able to see kids' social media like Snapchat? So when Snapchat like erases, so is there a way to see it? And are there kids who you would say they shouldn't know that you're monitoring? Or do you feel like with all kids, I mean, my instinct is to say your kids should absolutely know that you're monitoring. But are there cases where you wouldn't recommend that?
I tend to love transparency. I think it works for the relationship in the short and long run. I think it helps to know. I definitely, again, I guess the theme of today is just like everyone is just so different, but I would think that yes, we should know that we're being monitored. And and again, that confident parenting, if there are platforms you're just really not comfortable with, I think that at least attempting to talk to your kids and say, here's why I prefer you not be on this platform, but you can use this platform, you know what I mean? And again, the danger again is that the kid can access it anywhere, right? It's just so much a dynamic plethora of children that we have that we just don't know who's going to go where to do what. But I would definitely say I would want you to share with your kid that you're monitoring. It's also a parental kind of like, I'm here, like I want to be a part of this. And there was a first part of that question, Rachel. What was the first part of that one?
What happens with accounts like Snapchat where it deletes? Like, is there a way to see what's been deleted?
Got it. To my knowledge, and Sammy, feel free to jump in here. To my knowledge, you can't. Is that correct, Sammy? Like, you can screenshot. Oh, go ahead.
You can screenshot, but people can see that you screenshot it. But I've kind of watched TikToks where you can like go around that. It's crazy. Pretty much the gist of it is there's always a way to see something, but you can't, like the person that like you can't see it, but there's always like it's always documented. That makes sense.
In other words, nothing's ever deleted from online. Like
Nothing's
anything that
ever
happens
deleted
online, it exists forever. Now, can you get to it as a parent?
Probably
I'm not
not.
quite sure. Right.
Unless you're like a secret like coder.
The government wants it, right? Like something like that. And I think that's where it comes into like comfort. Like I know at this stage, if I were to decide I wanted to give my daughter, she's the older one, she's 11. If I wanted to give her access to social media, I just know for now, Snap would not be an option for us. Like it just wouldn't be for now. That's not forever, but I'm uncomfortable with the platform.
But what I found, when I found like I got Snapchat when I was 12, I think. But my brother got it when he was 9. So that I like, you know what I mean? Like my mom knows like the platform. So if you have like more than one kid, it kind of changes as the ages go down because you get more comfortable with the apps.
Yes. Agreed.
That's something I've seen.
Agreed, 100%.
Thank you. And then the last question is, what about when a teen has multiple accounts on Instagram and Snapchat?
Yeah. Sammy?
I have a softball one. I have a main one. I have.
So is this person asking about hidden accounts?
Yeah, I think they're asking about hidden accounts, like Finsta, like one that you can see and one that you can't see. Do you have a Finsta too, Sammy?
I might have a Finsta.
Confession. Parents, ask your questions. She's right here. She's giving us the juice. I think that there just comes
How
a
do you
point.
Monitor all of that.
Yeah, there comes a point where we're going to have to trust what we've put in to our kids and continue to try to feed that in, because this question of, how do we monitor can go on to everything. Okay, so when they do start driving, how do you monitor where they're going? Okay, fine, you have little apps, but then if they leave their phone, like, okay, now with anything, we can start asking this, how do you monitor question when they say they're going here and they go out of town, or they take a trip, or like a trip for school, or a gap year trip. At some point we're going to have to just be like, you know what? My goal here is to keep putting in goodness to help the decisions that you're making and to support you to help keep creating that pool. I want to focus my mind on creating that pool of self-esteem for you and helping you to do that yourself, rather than trying to put my emphasis on making sure nobody drops any red drops into the pool, right? It's a little bit tough to kind of say, I'm going to micromanage, and it's not really micromanaging. I understand that you're interested in safety and interested in like making sure that your kid's okay and what are they up to, what are they seeing, what are they exposed to, but you'll drive yourself absolutely bonkers trying to keep up with all of the things that are happening. So ultimately our best safeguard, our best tool, our best armor as parents is to arm our kids with as much self-worth and personal value as we can. Run those scenarios as much as you can, talk to them as much as you can, have those analogies as much as you can, utilize the same platform that they're using to show them the brighter side of things, the good side of things, the positive influencers side of things, and just hope that that continues to influence their choices, their behaviors, and their online activities as much as possible, and in a relatable way because we just can't follow it all. Although we would like to probably.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you both so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate, what you've both brought to this webinar. And I just want to thank the Miriam Fund again for funding this series, and stay tuned for our next, our upcoming webinars and the information online for Sweet Sounds. I put the link in the chat as well as the link to the survey. So thank you again, and see you all soon. So
Thank you guys. Thank you,
Of course.
Sammy.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.